We begin this morning with efforts to check the cost of living crisis in Nigeria. At the end of a two-day meeting of the Presidential Committee on the Emergency Food Intervention, President Bola Tinubu directed the immediate release of over 100,000 metric tons of assorted food items from both the Strategic Grains Reserve and the Rice Millers Association of Nigeria. This is as a short-time response to rising food shortage in the country. In the interim, the government is considering the possibility of importing essential commodities to ensure their immediate availability within the next couple of weeks. State House correspondent Adesuwa Morwa reports.
Nigeria is witnessing protests fueled by the escalating cost of living, prompting citizens to voice their frustration over the affordability of essential goods. The gravity of the situation has led to swift government action to address the immediate impact on the population. A Presidential Committee on Emergency Food Intervention concluded a two-day meeting unveiling crucial emergency measures. These include the release of grains from silos and other storage locations to alleviate the pressing food crisis.
Now, the whole idea of this is to crash the cost of these food items. And these are measures that will happen immediately. 42,000 metric tons from the Strategic Grain Reserve, about 60,000 metric tons of rice from the Rice Millers Association. They have them in all their storage facilities. The government, in conjunction with them after this exhaustive meeting, has directed that they also bring this out immediately so that the price of rice will come down significantly.
The Minister of Information disclosed that the government is considering looking outside its shores to address any shortfalls.
The government is also looking at the possibility of, if it becomes absolutely necessary, as an interim measure on the short run, to also import some of these commodities immediately so that these commodities can be made available to Nigerians immediately within the next couple of weeks. Now, all these emergency measures, there is, of course, a directive to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security to invest massively in conjunction with Nigerian farmers and other producers so that we can have better season coming shortly.
The government is alarmed by hoarding and exploitation amid rising costs and currency depreciation. While expressing its intent to take action, it has not outlined the specifics of these measures.
The government will not fold its arms. We know where all these major traders are. We know where all these major stores are. And if they don't respond by bringing these commodities to the market, the government will take appropriate measures to ensure that these products are made available to Nigerians.
The government acknowledges the gravity of the situation and has committed to tackling necessary actions. However, challenges lie ahead as authorities work to balance the need for immediate relief with sustainable, long-term solutions to address the root causes of the crisis. Adesuwa Omorwan, Arise News.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress have issued a 14-day strike notice to the federal government over the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement both parties reached after the removal of petrol subsidy. In a statement, the leaders of the two labor unions expressed sadness that despite the passage of time, the majority of crucial agreements remained unmet and negligibly addressed. The federal government had, among other things, promised the implementation of a 35,000 naira wage award for civil servants. The agreement was focused on addressing the harsh socioeconomic consequences of the hike in the price of petrol and the devaluation of the naira. The NLC and the TUC two-week ultimatum starts from February the 9th. Dr. Abati.
Okay, two issues there. Let's take them one after the other. The federal government announced yesterday through the Federal Minister of Information and National Orientation that the government has now decided, with immediate effect, as directed by President Tinubu, to release grains from the strategic reserve. The exact type of grains that will be released, not clearly identified, but I guess they'll be looking at beans, maize, millet, and, again, there's a certain uncertainty about the figure of what will be released. Some newspapers are reporting 102,000 metric tons of grains. Some are reporting 42,000 metric tons of grains. Well, if you calculate a ton, it's about 500,000. So if they are releasing 42,000, you are looking at a lot of money, in the range of about 200 billion. If it is 102,000 metric tons, you are looking at almost 500 billion. The question is, okay, who is going to fund the process? Where will the money for that come from? But what we can establish is that there is food crisis in the country, food inflation at 33.3%, according to MBS figures, headline inflation at 28.92%, according to MBS figure December 23. And the reality is that Nigerians are trooping onto the streets in Kano, in Kogi State, in Ondo State, in the Federal Capital Territory, in Minna, in Niger State, to say that they are hungry. So it's a good thing, the positive side of the story, to see the federal government of Nigeria responding immediately in the face of those protests. President Tinubu having moved food insecurity to a national security bracket, and also having declared a national emergency on food insecurity in July 2023. And now we have that committee meeting, including the chief of staff to the president, who chaired the meeting, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of State for Agriculture, the CBN governor, the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Minister of Education. So we have the result of their deliberations in the course of the week. So they are releasing grains. But these grains that the federal government is releasing from the National Strategic Reserve. Now, what is the state of the National Strategic Reserve? Nobody has told us. We need to know. Where are the silos that they are releasing from? Where are they? The major silos are probably in a certain part of the country. Now, what is the methodology for putting this out? Are they going to release through the Ministry of Agriculture? Because at that meeting, we had the Minister of Agriculture, we had the Minister of State for Agriculture. The fear is that if this is processed through the Ministry of Agriculture, let it not end up like a COVID palliatives. Because what the federal government is trying to do is a kind of, providing palliatives for the people. The last time the federal government of Nigeria provided palliatives, it resulted in crisis. So first, the methodology is very important, and they don't need to reinvent the wisdom. As far back as the time of the pharaohs in Egypt, when there was a famine, when there was food crisis, Joseph was appointed the governor of Egypt, and he stockpiled food. That's also like a national grains reserve. And there was distribution not just to the Egyptians, but also to people who came from other lands to buy from Egypt at the time. Genesis 41, verse 37. But in Nigeria, when they want to distribute anything and provide palliatives to the people, it's always a problem. People will go and keep them in the warehouses. So I don't think that the Ministry of Agriculture will be the right department of government to do it. The second option, maybe they want to use middlemen. That in itself is problematic. The biggest grains market in Nigeria is in Kano, Dauru market. Now, if they take it through the people in Dauru market in charge of grains who sell most of the grains in Nigeria, how would it work out? These are the people fixing the prices. It's not farmers who fix prices. It's the people in the market who fix the prices. Now, in some other countries, they will have what they call commodity exchange boards. Where is the functional commodity exchange board in Nigeria? The purpose of releasing food from the National Grains Reserve is, of course, to modulate prices. So who is going to do that if we don't have a functional commodity exchange board? So the devil is in the details. But in terms of intention, yes, it's good to see government showing concern. As to the second topic, well, after the pump price of fuel went up following the removal of fuel subsidy, organized labor, through the NLC and the TUC, engaged government and said there must be palliatives for the people to cushion the effect. Now, part of that was that they arrived at, was it a 16-point, memorandum of understanding? And there were details there. One of those details was that by September 2023, which effect from September 2023, federal government workers will receive a new minimum wage of 35,000 naira for a period of 6 months. It was also agreed, just to be brief, because we can't list all the 16 agreements, it was also agreed that 100 CNG buses will be provided across the country to ease transportation. Now, 5 months after, none of these agreements has been met. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, again yesterday, was appealing to organized labor to be patient. Where we are is that organized labor is saying, well, that patience is running thin. After 5 months, they have not seen anything. We saw some buses that were being refurbished. But where are those CNG buses that were being refurbished in Abuja that the pictures were shown on the screen? Now, organized labor has given a served notice of strike action. February 9 to 14, after February 14, they say they are going to go on strike. Well, that again is going to add a lot of hardship to the community, given the difficulty in the environment. And already I see that some of the affiliate unions and even non-affiliate unions are already saying they will be part of it. Pengasan says they will be part of it. NATO, those are the transport owners. They say no, they will shut down the country. Senior staff of Air Transport Association of Nigeria, they too are saying they will be part of it. So can we again afford, with this hardship, for the country to be shut down? We face a serious challenge. It's for government to address all of this and begin to engage labor immediately and not ignore them, as had been the practice in the past.
So I like history because history teaches us a lot of things. I'll go back in memory lane, 1381, and this happened in England. There was something called the Peasants' Revolt against Richard II. The Peasant Revolt had started because of increase in taxes and the general economic malaise after the Black Death in England. And the peasants started revolting. And then it did speak volume about what England was. Today we're having the people revolt due to pain and poverty. And the truth has to be said. It's a domino effect. These things did not start today, but it has reached a crescendo because of our reactions. Number one, the government reacted to the protests. Yes, and I commend them for the reaction. But somebody will have also thought that they should have anticipated that when you remove subsidy and you devalue the currency at the same time and you've not been able to fight the galloping inflation, then you're going to have attendant risk and problems. And now you're having those problems, especially when you have hitherto legacy problems in the agricultural sector, insecurity, logistical challenges, high post-harvest losses, then there are going to be problems. Then when the government said they released strategic grain reserve, it looks like too much being said. I'll shock you. I think in 2022, during Easter Ramadan period, President Buhari said they should take 40,000 tons from that grain reserve. Where is the reserve? Is it the same reserve that newspaper reported 2016, 2017, that the government wanted to give to the private sector the 30 reserves we have, grain reserves we have? Is it from that same reserve? So where is the grain reserve? Who is even operating the grain reserve as we speak? What's the state of the reserve? What is stored in the reserve? They said they wanted to take 42,000 tons, millet and other, crops. And they said they wanted 60,000 tons of rice that would last about a couple of weeks to be provided by Rice Growers Association. I challenge the Rice Growers Association. Do they really have those grains? Have they grown enough rice? Is it not the same in Nigeria that we know that paddy is a big problem? Lagos State has a rice mill. Paddy is a problem, as with most of the rice mills in Nigeria. So where are the rice growers going to get that paddy from? Oh, where are even the pyramids? What's the state of these reserves that we have? And these are pertinent questions I would like to ask, and I want them to provide answers. The other part of it that really excited me was the fact that government has not known that at some point they will have to import. Because that's the stark reality. And apart from importing, opening up the borders, but even when you open up the border, you don't have the price advantage any longer because CFA is now more than the Naira. So even if you want to buy from markets that are surrounded by the ECOWAS region, Niger and all of that, you still have to purchase in CFA, and CFA is 2-to-1 already. So it makes the cost higher. In the reverse, if Nigerian farmers were producing a lot, we should be able to sell more of that because our produce is now cheap. So you have to look for currency to be able to chase CFA, which increases the prospect of buying. So we are at a logjam as we speak today. And we need to look deeply into this. How much money will also be released to be able to import grains? And how would that money be administered? Because the whole idea of shutting the border has not been defeated. President Buhari shut down the border and increased inflation because he said he wanted food sustainability and farmers to be able to grow within. But shutting down the border has increased inflation, and the whole idea had come to nothing now because now we have a problem on our hands. We now have to see how we can open up the border. And when you look at it, trade with Niger is stopped because of the inter-regional crisis, and the border with Niger is pretty much shut down. So we have a quandary in our hands. But I would like to see how the government comes out transparently. It's at a time like this that we want the government to do well. We support the government. Yesterday, I was on a session where we're talking about export commodities and how much money they can make for Nigeria. Soya bean and commodities like that. Apart from buying to make a short-term case, the government should be able to think of mass cultivations of hectarage of land as we speak today, using improved seed varieties, cutting post-harvest losses with massive investment in the agricultural sector. Because I'm sure the government has now realized that agriculture is the real security, and it's very important. So how can we bolster the sector now? It will take a lot of massive investments. Agriculture is the new oil. We've always been saying that. When you look on the international market, palm oil can make you what crude oil is making you if you invest in palm oil. The empirical research will be able to show that. Tope Fashola serves in the government now. On many occasions, Tope and I are debated the viability of palm oil. Tope is in the government. He serves with, the vice president as we speak today as economic advisor. He knows these facts. So we've always constantly talked about it. Is it not the time for us to be able to look inward? Then also bolster our technology and service sector. Because you see, if we use this time properly, it could be our finest hour. But the problem I have is that we don't have the capacity to be able to introspect and think on how to bring ourselves out of this economic situation. Because we're there. But it's only thinking that can bring us out. So how quickly can we bring about those reforms? Stemming the time of post-harvest losses, cutting the role of middlemen, massive investment in cultivation and cropping across societies, also looking at cash crop and readily available crop, starting a scheme where almost everybody should plant at least a vegetable in their backyard, and also bringing about a behavioral change and attitudinal change to stop the mindset of people from constantly depending on imported goods and services. Also a form of substitution in dietary requirements. We are crucial times. We need all of this at this point in time. That's a solution. For the government as regards labor, for me, labor sort of like plays a game of Teddy Picker. And it's a game of all or nothing. This is the same labor that leads a lot of Nigerians that say, oh, things are wrong at this point in time. And we get it. But you get to a point where you ought to bite, you don't bite, you don't show action. So you lose your integrity. So people don't even know how to follow you in this regard. The question is it today that government reneged on those promises? No, it was since last year. And true to type, government has not been able to provide. I mean, the palliative we even talked about, how many people got it? We remember a certain person in this country, I said they were going to use GPS to distribute products, but today we are seeing cases of how monies were sent to different accounts. That case is still going on with EFCC. So the CNG buses, it can't be anywhere to be found, Dr. Abati, because the question is, have we even adopted the use of CNG? Where is the gas? Where is the viability of the gas? You're talking about CNG, but we can't have this. Where is the gas? Ordinary cooking gas has stopped about 14,000 naira as we speak today. So where's the viability of the adoption? Because you see, there are three processes before you make something orthodox. Your initial research, your move to adoption, and your move to orthodoxy. What's the percentage of cars that are being converted? Like I said, everything is a domino effect. You remember again, let me take your mind back to when the last Minister of State for Petroleum said they were going to fully adopt CNG and they were going to start the conversion of people's cars. What happened to that process? He fell short. So all of a sudden you think, and where has been the accountability on the monies released for that process? We've not seen anything. So apart from this, and also minimum wage, it's even long expired. I'll shock you about minimum wage. Minimum wage that was negotiated in the 80s, when naira and dollar was at parity, was well over 100 naira. The minimum wage in 1982-83 is more than the minimum wage we give people today. So life was better for somebody 40 years ago as a worker in Nigeria than it is today. So even if you bump it up to 200,000, inflation will eat it up, but also the devaluation of the currency has made it flat-footed in monetary terms. So there's nothing again. So when you say, okay, minimum wage, and you're charging how much are you giving them? How much is that going to be? $100 is not even about 140,000 naira or 200,000 naira, which is a far cry to what people in the other parts of the world. So there are many multiple problems. But for me, NLC with a proposed strike at this point in time, we should watch it, because it's just going to throw a Molotov cocktail into an already brewing fire. Can we talk even more? Can we have these conversations? Can we think properly? I rest my case.